Hey, you. Yeah, you, the one who tuned into the Pin Pals podcast. Are you looking to get custom pins made super easy? Are you new to the pin game and don't know where to start? Perhaps you don't even know the difference between soft enamel and hard enamel. Or maybe you're a polished pin maker, you've been in the game for a while, but your current manufacturer just isn't cutting it. Well, I got some good news for you. My friends over at Your Stuff Made can help make you custom pins. They are wizards at this kind of stuff. They work under strict ethical guidelines so you know your pins are being produced clean and safe for the environment. Their team actually cares about what they make. And best of all, they're not a middleman. They have direct access and control over tools, machinery, and resources needed to make enamel pins. So this means super low costs and fast shipping times. They are the real deal. And speaking of deals, you know where I'm going with this. I got one for you. If you order custom pins from Your Stuff Made, you can save 10% off your entire order. And with this inflation going crazy these days, 10% can be huge. Especially if you're new to the pin game, every dollar counts. So all you have to do is visit yourstuffmade.com, fill out a quote, and under the referral section, select the Pin Pals podcast. That'll tell them that I sent you, and that's how you get 10% off all your custom pin orders. Once again, the place to be is yourstuffmade.com. Let them know the Pin Pals podcast sent you. So, what are you waiting for? Start creating today. Welcome back to the Pin Pals podcast, the podcast about enamel pins and the talented pin makers behind them. I'm your host, Eric Roman from Warrior Pins, and thank you for tuning in to another episode. It means a lot. Happy belated summer solstice, happy Juneteenth, happy belated Father's Day. Summer is officially here. I just celebrated my 32nd birthday. I just announced that I will be at San Diego Comic-Con on a panel about enamel pins with some other former podcast guests. Like, life is pretty good right now. But I got to remember to stay humble and grateful, because with the good comes the bad. With the ups come the down. Anyway, shout out to my Buy Me a Coffee supporters, Vinpin, Miss Pinny, Pin Lord, Pins by Charlie, Pinsomnia Designs, Enigma Pins, Manny Cartoon Studio, and our newest member, drumroll please, Invader Pin. Jake from Invader Pin joined the crew last week, and I could not be more grateful. Thank you. Definitely go check out his profile at Invader_Pin. Man, we are rolling deep these days, and the Discord server has never been more buzzing. You know what I'm trying to say. I love it. This is awesome to see. The community is growing, and it's just incredible. If you want to be part of this and directly support me and the Pin Pals podcast, please visit buymeacoffee.com/pinpalspodcast. You can either buy me a couple cups of coffee, or you can join in as a monthly supporter or monthly listener. All have great perks and lots of good stuff to check out, including my interview with Kevin Eastman and access to our virtual happy hour, which, by the way, is happening tonight, June 23rd, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I think it's all going to be happening in our Discord server, so sign up before then if you don't want to miss that. Today we have possibly the nicest, most kind-hearted, and lovable pin maker in the game. I had the pleasure of chatting with Joel from Miss Pinny, and we talk about his journey through the pin game. We talk about queer pins, other queer pin makers, and what that whole community is like, how it differs, how it's the same. We talk about a lot of the usual stuff, best-selling pins, worst-selling pins, how he goes about marketing pins. But probably my favorite part of this conversation, I think it's towards the end. Joel shares a story of how pins help people identify with certain interests and lifestyle choices, and it's just so heartwarming. It's really cool. Like I said, Joel is just an absolute lovable pin maker, and I hope you guys show him lots of love after this episode is done. Be sure to check him out on his website. Be sure to check him out, give him a follow on Instagram. All those links will be in the show notes. As always, Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Pin Pals podcast wherever you're listening to this. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anything helps these days. And if you go ahead and you leave a review, whether it's good or bad, I will read it on the air. So let's see if we can get some of those numbers up. Now, let's jump into my conversation with my pen pal, Miss Pinny. Welcome to Pin Pals, Joel. How is it going?
Good. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing good, hanging in there. Just had some dinner with some friends at a safe and respectable social distancing space.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of COVID anxiety right now. It came back. I was like chill over a little bit over the summer, and then like the fall and the winter hit, and this COVID anxiety, I just feel like it never ends. But yeah, I have been doing the same. I've been keeping inside, and then it's a little better than at the beginning of the pandemic, but I'm able to see some friends that I know. But for the most part, it's very, very similar to you. It just feels like everyone I know has COVID, and I'm not as scared because everyone I know, not everyone, but most of the people I know have the vaccine. But I am so anxious about giving it to someone who might be at risk, who might be unable to get vaccinated for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. It is. I feel the same way. A lot of the times, if I know I've been out with some friends or just like out and about, and I haven't gotten tested yet, I'll go to like my parents' house. Well, I'll try and be really careful about going to my parents' house. Like if it's super important, yes, I'll go. But like I'm wearing masks around certain people and stuff like that. Just trying to be respectful. You know, I'm playing my part. We got vaxxed and staying masked up and being, vigilant about our actions and stuff like that is like all we can do at this point.
Absolutely.
So now I'm just trying to not go crazy and just like still live my life,
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So why don't we tell the listeners, give the listeners a little introduction on who you are and your pin company.
Sure. So my name is Joel Jamino. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I created last year during the second year of the pandemic, Miss Pinny Pins. It is definitely a play off of Miss Piggy, and Miss Piggy has been an icon of mine since birth. And I actually didn't name it. I will say I was thinking about. I've been really interested in pins becoming a pin maker for a long time, and then my sister's oldest kid, they said, hey, how about you just name, I was thinking about a name, and they're 20 now. So they said, oh, how about you name it Miss Pinny? And at first I thought, I was like, this is so stupid. No one's going to like that. And then it just kind of like ingrained itself in my head. And I was like, oh, I guess I have to call it Miss Pinny. And even like, as I looked at the logo and what I was doing, I kind of took the M from the old Muppets logo to use the Miss, and I altered it a little bit. And then I found kind of a font that was a little more, like a little more rock. I hate saying that, but a little more like, a little more distorted or not so clean for the Pinny part to try to give it a mesh up. But yeah, I started it last year. It was a passion that really came out of the pandemic, and I'm just really proud to be a part of this community. There's a lot of things that drew me here.
It's crazy that people are starting businesses during the pandemic. I mean, it's an undertaking just to start a business, but to have like the pandemic kind of, not necessarily in your favor is pretty crazy. So right off the bat, I got to commend you for going for it, even though we're in like this terrible nightmare. Tell me how you got started.
Sure. So I don't know. I can tell you, I have for a long time been really interested in enamel pins. I've been collecting. Really, I guess I started collecting probably about 8-9 years ago. and but nothing like huge. I didn't really jump in. I was just collecting other things. I will say, like 20 years ago, I worked at Disneyland, and I kind of thought the pin trading game was so ridiculous. I worked there though, so I was at some points had to have like a lanyard on, and people would come up to me and want to trade pins. They provided us the lanyards, of course, but when you work there, you have a different understanding or a different relationship with pin trading. But
it's a job.
Yeah, it's a job for sure. And so I thought it was kind of silly, but I liked the idea. I always liked the idea of pins. One of the things I didn't necessarily like about Disney pins was they were all hard enamel. And I really like soft enamel. I really liked feeling the grooves on it and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I found a few years, about 9 years ago, I found that there were a few, and I feel like 9 years ago, there was only really a few sellers on Etsy that were kind of, or actually a lot of it was just on independent sites too. Like Laser Kitten, I remember buying something there, or even, and I think Pin Lord was doing a lot of stuff then at the time. But I would buy certain things. And then in my job, I had the opportunity to buy I work at an LGBTQ center, and I direct programs for LGBTQ youth. So within our budget, I was able to figure out a way to get a button maker. And of course, I think it was maybe a little bit more my passion than the kids. But once the kids found out how to use the button maker, they were making all sorts of things. Cool. And a lot of pop culture inspired things. And from there, I just really started to think about, how do I make this into something that I can feel really passionate about? When the pandemic rolled around, I was really scared about, so this is a tangent, but I'll circle back. I was really scared about what the pandemic might do to the health of my family, and also me too, because I was a smoker, and I knew, like, this is something that I have to give up. So I gave up smoking during the pandemic, and I used that money to buy my first pins. And I started designing and reaching out to people like you. Just like I reached out to Colectric Creations. I reached out to a lot of different people that I just were following online. And I think the thing that solidified it for me, that I was going to be a part of this community, was how nice everyone was. I don't think that I would have entered into a community that I got a vibe that was really toxic and wasn't inclusive, and that had a lot of competition in it. Because for me, this is not about competition. This isn't even really about selling. A lot of it, honestly, is just about making pins that I didn't find, so I have to make them myself. So a lot of it is just feeding my own hobby.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's wild. I guess for context, because it'll probably come up a little bit later, but since we mentioned it, Joel has been a supporter of the podcast for a while, so it's just been awesome. We've been going back and forth and things like that, and so it's been really cool to kind of see your growth from my perspective. Someone who reached out and was kind of like a listener and just thinking about making pins, to hear you saying that you reached out to other guests on the podcast, and then here we are, like, full circle. Yeah. Like, now we're talking on the podcast, and like, mm-hmm. You're in the community, you're in it right now. And I think that's just, it blows my mind. It's wild.
No, really, I have to thank you, because I don't know if I would have had and to be very clear, the audacity to reach out to people, do a cold DM to people. And
I love that phrase,
listening,
cold DM. It's so modern.
It is. I don't know if I would have had that courage, but listening to your podcasts, it was really nice. And like, there was a couple tips that just came. I was really worried about, like, what happens about color and stuff. And then Colectric Creations literally said on your podcast, I don't worry about color. I let them figure it out. I let the manufacturers, and that like helped my anxiety. Even though I do have like I do check the colors against a Pantone book. There was some little anxieties about what happens if I pour $250 into a pin and it doesn't come out the right way, or what all these things that can happen in production that I was scared about. And then I even was as I'm not great at social media, or I'm pretty good at it. It just takes a lot of time. But I think Little Boat Boutique said something about, and I've always wondered, like, where is my line with Miss Pinny's social media? And Little Boat Boutique said that she just puts it out there. She just puts herself out there. And if people don't like her views or beliefs or anything like that, they don't have to follow her. And in fact, that it's helped her because she stands solidly in her beliefs on her business page, which I think I'm gonna start to take that in and use that in my my own in Miss Pinny's social media.
I think you absolutely should. I think that's really cool. I love when businesses get like super transparent and kind of like double down on who they are.
Yeah.
It makes connecting with that brand a lot better, and it makes the experience, in my opinion, just a lot more fun. You know where this came from, like more or less the personality, a lot of the people that I buy pins from, I'm like, oh, I would love to like have a beer or hang out or like chill for a little bit. So I applaud and backing your idea of like trying to put yourself out there and doubling down on like what you think is cool and your own ideas. Because also on the flip side, and I'm sorry for going on, you're still new in the pin game, so you're still developing an audience and you're still trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And I think ultimately, and I think a lot of people are like this too, yeah, we're going to release stuff that we like, but it's going to be a blend. You're going to find out who your audience is. Maybe you're going to like or maybe they're going to like the fact that maybe you're doing different versions of Miss Piggy and that kind of like becomes your thing or whatever the case might be. But again, it just blows my mind that you just shouted out like another guest. Like that's so wild that they're like takeaways.
I will say that has helped me, and I've reached out to a lot of these people. In fact, I was so happy when Cool Electric Creations said like, oh, I am not one, like he said, I'm not one to like hoard the manufacturers I use. If someone asks, and so I asked, and within an hour or two I had 2 manufacturers in my DMs, which was great because I've used them since, and everything's worked out really well. So yeah, I have been so fortunate that there are those of you all that like came before that are willing to help new pin makers, because it is so important. Like it's, I don't know, it's been so important to me to and I don't consider myself an artist whatsoever. I just kind of consider myself, I do doodles. I do doodles, and then I'd like to have like a more permanent piece of what I create, right? And I don't know if I would have got there without like listening to this or having this by my side. And I also just want to shout out someone who I know personally in my life. He runs a popular account called Pintercourse, and has had a few, is actually the one that did this Britney Spears, Miss Piggy Swine, I'm a swine for you. And I reached out to him. He was one of the first people I reached out to saying like, oh, so what do I have to do? And that was like, I think my first step that I did.
I'm scrolling through the Instagram profile right now. Oh, these are fun. Definitely check out at Pintercourse. Great name too.
Yeah, it is such a good name.
Okay, before we move on, it's still stuck in my head the fact that you worked at Disney.
I did, yeah.
So what can you, if you can remember, this was a while ago, what can you remember about the rules of like trading? Now that we have someone from the inside, I'm curious. Did they like, because someone recently mentioned that I think they were at Disney and someone at Disney like, hey kid, you dropped a pin. They didn't drop the pin. It was just them giving a pin. Is that like a
A pin
prompt?
to
Do they
someone.
like encourage you to like get kids to like buy pins or interested in pins?
No, not necessarily. So when I was there from 2000 to 2004. So it was right as the time as California Adventure was opening, and I they had really just kind of started this program, and the people that clung to it were the APs, the annual pass holders, and they would just for particular like at almost all the rides, if you had like a greeter position, either at the front of the line or at the back of the line or at the exit or something like that, they'd give them a random lanyard. You'd be like the site would have it, and that you would wear while you're at that position. If someone bumped you out of that position, you'd give it to that person. And those were positions where you could interact with folks. Now, were there a lot of rules? The rules were that as long as it was an official Disney pin, we had to trade at the time. However, I know that there was, and I can't tell you now what the particular rules were, but like had I accidentally or maybe on purpose given away a pin, I doubt anyone would have said anything. Um, I think their idea is that usually the ones that are on the lanyards that they give out are really like some of their overstock pins and stuff. They're not the greatest ones. So they never encouraged me to give them away. They always said trade, but if I would have done it, and I would have said to my manager, "Oh, I was making a magical moment because I saw that kid was crying or something like that," then I'm sure everyone would have just like blown over.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, so they're basically just like trying to feed into their fandom, feed into them like really
Yeah,
liking Disney and trying to do that. Okay. It's
yeah.
pretty interesting. I was always curious. I can't remember like my interactions when I was a kid at Disney, but I definitely remember like swapping stuff and like, oh, that's a cool like goofy pin. And they're
Hmm.
like, here you go. And I'm like, what? This is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's part of the cool thing is that they will like cast members will always say yes when you
Yeah.
trade with them.
That's pretty cool. Okay, cool. So now that we got that out of the way, selfishly, I was just really curious about that. Talk to me about your first pin. Was it that Miss Piggy pin?
I did two of them at one time.
Oh,
I
big
know the
baller.
two things, so I know. I am like really privileged. I will say I'm really privileged, and this is not my sole job. I have a day job and everything. I was able to self-fund everything. But originally I was watching some YouTube videos about what people do, like the step-by-step process. And I had seen a couple people talk about, oh, there's this. It wasn't one of the bigger ones. It was one. It's a smaller one it's a smaller third party in Colorado that I had found through different YouTube videos. It wasn't like Wizard Pins or Alchemy, but I just reached out to them because I thought, oh, this is smaller and they may be able to guide me through this a little bit more. And I sent them both the Miss Piggy the Vampire Slayer and this Cruel Intentions one with Sarah Michelle Gellar and Selma Blair kissing. And at first I was like kind of testing the water because as you do, I sent them like a pretty queer pin of like women with their tongues in each other's mouth. And they were totally cool. And they said, okay, well, this is what we can do. Here are like the breakdown. And because I had already researched, I want them soft. I want these, I want around these colors. And they had kind of found the colors for me and everything, gave me a mock-up. And I really liked that, but it was a little more expensive than I wanted it to be. But I was I'm actually glad I took that first step, because it kind of gave me an idea of where, how these would turn out. So if you have the money, like, and you get someone that's really great to work with at a third company or a third party, yeah, and if they can help guide you through, that really worked for me. But once I found, there was like a learning curve then once I started communicating with manufacturers in China, because there's a much different communication pattern that I needed to create for myself. And you know, I think I had a hard time like making sure that I was being just as I can just imagine when we're working with like manufacturers in China, sometimes I feel like they are doing a lot more work to adjust to our culture of of manufacturing and things. So I wanted to be really cautious about that as I was working with these folks in China who are doing the service for me for way cheaper than I could do it here. And I still have like some reservations about like, what am I actually paying for? I don't know what's going on in these factories. So there's always that like trepidation I have in, I don't even know where the question started, but this is where it's ending.
That's like every question on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's either the guest is on a tangent or I'm on a tangent, and I'm like, okay, what was the original question? Half the time, behind the scenes exclusive, half the time, I forget what question I asked, and I'm just rolling through with it. So that's pretty interesting. One comment on going through like a middleman, a third party service or whatever. I think that's a really great first step. Yes, it's more expensive, but if you don't have the time or you don't know where to start with, it's a great starting point because it's like an entry level. Like, yeah, you're going to be paying a little bit more because someone who knows how to make pins is helping you walk through these steps, and we're proving all the colors and the size and stuff like that. And the communication is also a big thing too. The fact that they're probably like from North America is a huge thing. And so like you said, when you're trying to talk to someone overseas, there is a bit of a learning curve, but hopefully, you know, it sounds like you've learned more or less the lingo and kind of what to say and how to say it, and now they're attacking our DMs. Before it was like the cold emails, and now they're sliding into the DMs.
As soon as I started, Miss Pinny, the first followers I had were manufacturers. And now there's just a list of them saying, hey, try us out. And I also am cautious about like, are some of these scams? And I actually haven't heard any particular scams that have gone on in the pin community, but maybe there's not. Maybe I don't know. Maybe these are folks that are making honest livings.
Joel, we're going to assign you to that case. We're gonna have you do a deep dive
on
are
there
fraud
scams happening?
Pin scams. That's pretty funny. No, I think just to comment on that, because I know that was a joke, but for me personally, I do all of my transactions via PayPal. So there's that too. PayPal like service fee that you have to like pay. You know, the manufacturer will put the PayPal fee in there because you're usually paying for goods and services. However, for me, and I'm sure for you, it gives you like a peace of mind knowing that if something does happen, I can always file a claim through PayPal. And be able to handle like any funny business. But luckily, I've not had any funny business. I've had funny looking pins within the batches, but you know, maybe you can speak to this on your experience. For me, I've been able to just communicate, take lots of pictures. I'll take a picture of a good pin and a bad pin. And a couple of jobs ago, I worked at a piano factory, and we did a lot of custom parts, and we were talking with manufacturers in China, but we would get so meticulous with a lot of the designs that we would actually open up Photoshop and draw circles and point arrows and like do all that stuff. So there's no questioning.
That's what I do.
Oh, perfect.
So I mean, not Photoshop, but I will like take a screenshot on my phone and just use my stylus or whatever to circle like here's what's going on with this one or with this one, or because they'll always send pictures. They are very low quality pictures, but pictures nonetheless. I don't know. I feel like I'm just gonna assume that something happens in the traveling of that picture from across the world. I know that doesn't make sense, but that's what I assume happened.
I like that. That's pretty funny. But that's really smart, and that's the best way to communicate a lot of these like smaller, hard to see details and things like that. So you get your first 2 pins made from the third party service. How did you feel after getting them? Did you do like a quality control? You inspect them? Like walk me through like the next steps from getting the pins in hand to actually trying to find an audience and sell them.
Yeah, so I had already started. I had known they were coming in, and then I started the Instagram to start to promote it. And then I did a couple of those Facebook groups, the enamel pin ones, that allow you to promote your stuff. And I think I was pretty well prepared. I had gotten some backing cards, which I had designed some backing cards, and I had those made pretty relatively quickly. The hard part was finding the right plastic that went around it. And now I'm even looking at like, can I do paper instead? Is there tissue paper I can wrap it in instead? Because I kind of want to do away with plastic, even the bubble wraps. And I think you sent me something, and I even got something from Cosmic Medium recently that came in these little boxes, which I think I want to move toward because it's just so much more green. But yeah, I think I had just done enough work that I was really excited to say, okay, let me do the quality control. And I found that very few of these coming from, because it went from their manufacturer to the third party, then to me, I think they did a quality control because most of them were pretty were pretty good. It wasn't until I started getting direct from the manufacturer that I've noticed like, oh, here's what people mean by B pins or C pins or whatever, which is fine with me. I understand, that there was like if I order 100 of something that probably 85 to 90 are going to make it through to the 80 to the A grade. I just take that as what it is, but I'm sure that's probably what happened unless they have a wonderful manufacturer through that third party. And the thing that really excited me was doing that initial, it is since I'm not as fond of it, but that initial, like, let me lay out my styrofoam, put my cards down and press the pins into the, like these mundane tasks, and then putting the plastic over them, and then having like, and I think that was when I got really excited when I saw the actual product. This is the thing that someone is going to buy. It's wrapped in plastic. It looks professional. And then when I opened up, I had already made a date. We're counting down. We're going to open up. I wanted to have 4 pins available. I had gotten 2 more from my manufacturers, and it was like, I don't know, that was the funnest part, those first couple of weeks. Of course, I had my friends flood in to buy things and whatnot. But the idea of like packaging orders that I always see this happen on TikTok or on Instagram. That was fun to me, like doing this, like writing a little note, folding up the note, putting it in there with the order, and then sending it out.
Pack an order with me.
Yeah, pack an order with me, exactly. I haven't done one of those reels yet, but I'm sure it'll come eventually. But that was really fun to me at first. I have since not, I don't really like doing having to take off the backings because it just hurts my fingers so much. But I've heard that manufacturers can do that for you. I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, neither. I did it once, and I did not cross the T's and I did not dot the I's. The backing card came out a lot smaller than typically how I do. They were sized correctly. No, let me rephrase. They were sized to make the pin look a lot bigger. Uh, no, how do I want to say this? The backing cards themselves were small. The pin was for me, it was like
Mhm.
1.5 inch size. But because the backing card was smaller, when you put it next to like another one of my pins of the same size but a bigger backing card, it just made the pin seem way smaller. So then I just like started taking them off the backing card and then putting them on like regular ones, and I'm just like, look at this waste that I'm creating because they had bagged them up
Yeah,
too. But so consider that a lesson learned for me and for anyone listening. Cross your T's and
yeah.
dot your I's and make sure that, it's clear that we're talking like inches and centimeters or millimeters or whatever the
Hmm.
case might be. But that's pretty cool. So did you have your Etsy shop like set up and ready to go with these pins?
Yeah, everything like actually the last one I got, so I did the Piggy the Vampire Slayer, I did the Cruel Intentions Girls Kissing. I did one mashup of Princess Peach and Ariana Grande, and
I'm looking at that one right now. That's fun.
and I did a particular episode of the Golden Girls where Blanche is singing on a piano, but it's just her in her dress with the microphone, and she makes a fool of herself. And I said, okay, these are the ones. And I even did like a little launch date, like October 8th, we're gonna start. And it was just like kind of like a good time. It was a good I was really happy with my timing on that because it came just enough before Christmas that people that wanted to get gifts had the time, and I could figure out things before, I could figure out things with what really scared me was all this madness. I feel like this comes up every holiday season of like the scaring of like what's going to happen with the mail. Like this year it was all about the mail's going to be really slow. No one's going to get their things in time, when that turned out to be like everyone got their stuff pretty early. But yeah, I had particularly planned it to open up in the latter part of the year because of that. And interestingly enough, the Piggy the Vampire Slayer is the one that was the most popular, which I knew that one was going to be. But since Betty White's death on R.I.P. Betty, even though it's not a pin of Betty White, since the new year, almost all of my orders have contained that Golden Girls pin, which I guess people are collecting their Golden Girls stuff now after, to honor Betty White. But I've just noticed that shift that everyone is now looking for Golden Girl. Even in fact, today is her birthday. We're recording this on her birthday, and I've gotten 3 orders for just that pin.
Insane. What you should
Yeah.
do is keep tabs of like these pins or even Betty White pins on the aftermarket.
Hmm.
I like the part of me, the collector part of me is like at some point, like pins I think are gonna go up in value, especially when they're associated with certain people. And in this case, living legend,
Yeah.
RIP, like you said, like not to say that we're trying to like monetize over it, but like
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting to see like that, Betty White pins are probably going to go up in value, and anything associated to Betty White will probably
Yeah.
be like pretty hot right now. So maybe not the best trend, but
Yeah. I told my friend about it, and then she was like, "So you're literally profiting off this poor woman's death?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." No, she was kidding, of course.
yeah.
I didn't mean to. It was created before, but yeah, I've also noticed Etsy pushing. I don't know if they do it consciously. I'm sure they do. Etsy pushing a lot more Betty White product, or maybe just because I have a really gay Etsy that they're pushing that on me.
It could be like the
Yeah,
unicorn
the algorithm.
things. Yeah,
Yeah,
for whatever reason, you just happen to slip through into the promised land, and here you are.
yeah,
um, but also like Etsy, from what I've seen, and I didn't really. I've been on Etsy for years, but I didn't really start putting a focus on Etsy until I started like the podcast and started talking to people and just seeing like success and just more like search volume and things like that on Etsy. So I'm sure like now 2022, like it's just like one of the almost go-to places to just search for products, like along with Amazon. You know, I don't have the numbers to back that
Yeah.
up, but it seems like if you're looking for something unique, Etsy is just like we're gonna go there first.
Actually, I was not even a big supporter of Etsy up until a couple of years ago, when all of the young people I work with, all of the teenagers I work with, I would say like, oh, I really want like really specific things, like something with Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something with Muppets. And I would say like, I can't find them on Amazon. And I've tried to reduce my Amazon consumption since anyway, but the kids would all tell me like, yeah, you should go on Etsy. People make this stuff. You can find your community. It's all like, there are people finding communities on there because we're finding different passions of things that we like there, and you can get really specific items. And I know that a lot of my kids, when they want to go shopping, a lot of the kids that I work with, they are just scrolling on Etsy all day, just looking at like, it's part of their social media routine.
That is wild.
Yeah, because Etsy has really cute stuff. A lot of like, and I guess that's just kind of like where I maybe part of what drew me to pins in general is that, one of the things about like working with queer kids is that I noticed that, and not just queer kids, queer adults as well, that there is a big emphasis on symbols that help to represent themselves and their identities. It's been, and we noticed that when we started the buttons, and everyone wanted to make a button of the flag that represents them, whether it be pansexual or trans flag or the gay pride flag or the lesbian flag. There is particularly a lot of emphasis for queer individuals on these symbols, and there's a lot of meaning behind them too. And I think this is, to once again tangent, I think this happens a lot in marginalized communities, where we're talking about this idea of, especially like, I can speak to the queer community a little bit. There has been a need to evolve within the community nonverbal signaling and communication, because you can't always be safe in a place and communicating about your identity in certain ways. So even if we look at queer history, there are tons of things that just are symbols for queer community members that that really have a lot of meaning to them. We see in the early 70s when the rainbow flag was made, how important that was. Or even like the more commonly or pretty commonly, when people know of LGBT, any sort of LGBT history in the Holocaust, they know of how gay men had a pink triangle that they had to wear at all times. And so the reclaiming of those kind of symbols too have been really important as history has moved on. And I think that's why, if you search Etsy, you will see that the pin community is lousy with queers. And I say that in the best possible way. There's just so many queer pin makers, people that are supporting queer rights, different ways to show your activism in queer communities, and all the intersections with it too.
You oh man, you nailed it. The intersections part is just so cool. Seeing like I just did a quick Etsy search for queer pins, and bam, if you're into science, there's like test tubes that's got like the rainbow flag on it. Oh, maybe we need to make like a queer Ninja Turtle pin at this point.
Oh, please.
Well, how would that go? How would that work?
Well, I will say that uh, first of all, if there's any iconic character in that is adored by queer people, it's probably April O'Neil, just because she's fabulous. She's an independent. She gets her shit done. So even like having April O'Neil with a rainbow flag of some sort, or reporting at the Pride Parade, something like that would be phenomenal.
I love that idea. A rainbow like microphone, like or a camera, a camcorder, or even just like a rainbow jumpsuit.
If there was a gay turtle, though, it would be probably Donatello.
Why do you say that?
I'm just saying that I don't know. He's a little more introverted. He's a little quieter than the rest. He's very smart, and I'm not like he would probably go under the gay geeks of sort. But I would say that he's probably the gayest. Or if maybe Raph might be like, and I can see how
no one understands me.
No one understands him. He's the outcast.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to DM about this after the podcast because that sounds like
for sure.
That sounds like a lot of fun project to make. But also like I would love to contribute to this community. I don't know how many it's already like pretty niche when we're talking like Ninja Turtle pins. Like Ninja Turtle fans, okay, cool. How many of those fans collect Ninja pins? Turtle.
Yeah, and that's what I like about seeing. Muppets can be pretty niche, and I've found other people that really like Muppet stuff. So I'm going to continue. I actually have this week coming out someone that I call Casey Porker, which is Casey Becker from Scream, but it's Miss Piggy on the phone. It's the Drew Barrymore part. So she'll be coming out this week, as I know Scream is really big this week. Mm-hmm. But like to the idea that there will be supporters of that intersection, like you were saying, like, oh, it's pretty niche around, like, I as a queer person, everyone I know loved the Ninja Turtles growing up. I was raised throughout the 80s. It was a big part of my toys. I think I was more into the toys and the video game, the NES game, which I heard it's coming out for the Switch. A revamped version is coming out this year. Have you heard this?
There's a bunch of talks and stuff like that. Yeah, like Shredder's Revenge or something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
But I would say that there are probably more queer turtle fans than you know, especially when it comes to the weirdness that is the campiness that is the movies, the original movies. Not the Michael Bay ones, but the campiness of, and I even think like Jim Henson worked on those, or his company worked on some of that puppetry. Mm-hmm. And just because it is so campy and you have this, it lends itself to queerdom, which is like part of why pop culture pins are innately queer a lot of the time, because we find what's really interesting about being queer, growing up when you grow up queer, for a lot of folks, you really don't have a lot of representation. You don't see a lot of, I remember like growing up queer, I didn't know of one queer person that was on a TV show in the 80s. I couldn't think of one. And so what we would do is actually, I would kind of assign my own queerness to characters that really resonated with me as I grew up. And then when I did grow up and I shared this with people, there is this magical thing that happens when you find other queer people that are like, I had that same experience with that piece of media. It really resonated with me. I didn't know why. It is just like intrinsically queer, which is where we get like this camp culture from, which is where we get like these things that aren't always queer, but they definitely are, that maybe weren't even intended to have queer undertones, but they definitely did resonate with people. And we see that a lot in a lot of the stuff that people that queer pin makers are making. It's this connection to this piece of media that we both saw, or that me and the pin maker, or you and the pin maker and whoever saw, and the customer saw as being a representation of their identity. And so I think that's just what's really cool. And in terms of like what I do with Miss Piggy, I know that there's a lot of queer people that really have like glommed on to Miss Piggy. One, she's voiced by Frank Oz, so there's a little bit of like dragness to her already. And she's just fabulous, independent. She's someone that really just kind of holds her own, this idea of strong females, but also the camp that's involved with that. So I think I've been able to, that's why my one pin with Piggy the Vampire Slayer has been successful, because Piggy or Buffy lands in that same kind of category. Mm-hmm. It's also campy, and they do this without, what's still remaining, this ultra feminine persona that they have, and they can still hold power with it.
So one question I did have how do you, so given your interests and stuff like that, in terms of like the Muppets and Buffy and stuff like that, do you kind of lean into your interests to decide what pins to make? Do you kind of see what queer pins are available on Etsy or not available on Etsy, and you try and fill that gap? Just talk to me about how you figure out ideas and how you bring them to life.
Yeah, exactly. I look on Etsy, and then I do a couple Google searches, because not all pin makers are on Etsy, just to try to find, and I'll search with a lot of different keywords, because I want to make sure that there's room for all of our pins, right? And that that there is, I'm not stepping on anyone's toes, because that's the last thing I want coming into this community that's been so welcoming to me. So it probably first starts with, what is something I've wanted, that I've searched for, that I've never been able to find? And that was one of them, was the Cruel Intentions pin. And then I knew that there was a few folks that were doing, if you follow like a lot of campy pin makers, there are like a lot of Miss Piggy mashups, and I wanted to add to that. And like I have a RuPaul, a Hedwig and the Angry Inch, a Divine one, like an Elvira one, a Miss or a Britney Spears, and I wanted to add, Buffy the Vampire Slayer to it. So that was how I noticed that there was, and I even reached out to some of the pin makers that were doing it, and I asked them first, I was like, do you have any plans of making a Buffy one? Because if you do, then I'm all in, I'll buy it right now. I'll fund it if you want me to. And then they all said, no, I'm not going to be doing that, but I'd love that. Particularly who has a series called Pigs and Wigs, Devin's Dudes. Devin's Dudes makes some of these, and they're really phenomenal. And I think he's an LA-based pin artist as well. So yeah, I usually just reach out to make sure that these things are, and it usually does come from me, but what I want to kind of get into is, how can I make pins where I can donate part of the proceeds to something that I'm really, really passionate about now. I met at Pins and Patches and Pins in Santa Ana out here. I met this lovely pin maker named Mestiza Makes.
I met her recently in September.
Amazing.
She came to New York. Such a lovely
person. Yeah, lovely person. And they made in fact my niece, I'm sorry, not my niece, my sister. So I'll just tell you all this. My sister's kid is non-binary, does not go by niece. I'm moving, my language, and they use they them, just as Mestiza uses they them. So was my sister's kid, and there is a gender neutral term for niece and nephew. It's nibbling. I don't really like using it. It sounds a little racist to me. So I just say my sister's kid went with me to Patches and Pins, and they were instantly attracted to some of the stuff that Mestiza Makes was creating. And one of them said, and I bought it immediately, it said decriminalize sex work. And that has been like a big passion of mine to really help, those individuals who are, criminalized for engaging in sex work, especially when we consider the systems that often get them there. But also, like, just the idea that it's criminalized in general, that people can't make the decision to do with their bodies what they will. And so that was, and this was I think this was on Black Friday, we went to that fair. And I was just so happy to see that. So I think what I'm going to move toward is like making pins that do have these messages. Like, pop culture is great and it's a way to connect. But I think that every once in a while I need to pop out a pin that has a particular message that if people buy it, it will go toward, like, locally we have Swoop LA, which is an organization which helps change policy and helps with mutual aid for sex workers in LA County. And particularly when I think about why I'm interested in that is because so many of our trans youth that I work with have been forced into, or like we have here in LA, and I'm not one to speak on human trafficking or even sex work in general, but I just want to say that there is a high rate of queer youth becoming engaged in sex work due to discrimination, due to trafficking, due to a myriad reasons of risk factors. And once they become involved in that, they become criminalized, they have a record, and then it's really hard for them to get out of that life if they want to. Because I also think that it's absolutely okay to want to do this work as well. And I hope that we can have everyone engage in it safely. So I don't know where, like, so this rant is, I guess it's just going toward, like, I want to do something good with my pins, and it's wonderful. I haven't made any, like, I'll just be clear. If you're looking to make profit, I am not the one to ask. This is very much a hobby for me. If I make profit eventually, that is great. But if I can use my pins to put out good messages and then get particular donations for something that I'm passionate about, that is just as much a win for me as, like, making profit on this stuff.
I love that. And like, that's the cool thing about pins, is that it allows you to do that without getting in people's faces or anything like that. It's one of the, I love it. If you know, just like a simple head nod or even small talk when you're, I don't know, waiting for coffee or something like that. Like, that's such a cool thing. And then the people who are wearing it also, like, really feel like they're part of a community, like they're part of something. And even if you're not part of that, you can still buy these pins and then directly support a lot of these communities should you donate some of the proceeds and things like that. And I found that a lot of people will do that. They don't really care so much about the pin, but they love the fact that all the proceeds or whatever are going to X charity or X organization. So that's a great like mindset. It's a great mentality to have. we're gonna have to talk like on the DMs, and we're gonna have to try and figure this out. Maybe we can do something with this April
Yeah.
O'Neil idea. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you know, I know that that's not, you know, I think that's also just going back to that symbology of like, you know, we're living in a world where it can be scary because people are very tied to their belief systems right now, and sometimes in different circumstances, as someone who is, you know, pretty privileged, you know, I have a lot of gender privilege, as a, you know, as a cis man. um, I I think sometimes one of the best things I can do as an ally, even if I don't do anything, like I will do absolutely active things too, but it can be just as helpful for me, for me to, I don't want to say it can be just as helpful. I can say that I know that when I see things in public places that I go that represent me, that have like a rainbow flag up or something like that, I feel safer. I often carry around or wear some sort of transgender flag. Um, just I was in Ross the other day, looking for cheap clothes, and I had a pin on which had, I actually found this I don't know if I can find, oh, it's over here, but it has Kermit with a heart of the transgender flag. And I was wearing that, and someone came up to me and said, "I'm so glad you have that. Thank you." They said, I really like that pin. And then they walked away. They rushed away really quick because I was just going to give it to them.
It must have took a lot for that person, it sounds like, to like approach you and say that.
And it's something like that I know that, like, oh, I hope, my goal is not only do I like this pin, but I hope that someone else sees it, and for even the moment that I'm in that space, knows that if something goes down or something happens, they have someone to turn to, or someone's going to back them up. They're not going to be, and the likelihood of that happening might be really small, but it's still there, and it can make a difference.
Amen. I mean, you're defining like a community, and I think that's just so cool. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
Back to pins. Can you believe it's already been an hour?
I can't believe it. Oh my goodness.
This is probably like the fastest moving podcast that I've ever recorded. Just like that, here we are within an hour. So the couple questions that I do want to ask.
Cool.
In terms of your pin journey, what do you think have been some valuable lessons you learned? Maybe they're mistakes, maybe they're wins. Have you noticed anything? Have you seen anything?
Yeah, in my pin journey, it's, don't be afraid. The wins are the community. There are people that will support you 100%. Don't be afraid to this. Everyone wants to sell. Of course, they want to sell their stuff a lot, but they're, you know, returning back to it. This is not a community I probably would have started with if I didn't get that feeling of like, oh, people are going to accept me in this community. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to reach out. It's okay. You know, I love actually when people give comments on my stories or whatnot. That's a really wonderful way to just interact with folks. And the wins that I've had are when someone messages me and says, "Oh my goodness, I never thought about this Mean Girls Muppets mashup, but I love it so much. I'm going to order 4 of them," or something like that. Something that they're going to share now with their group of people too, that they can bond over. That makes me really happy. And to think that like there are people on the East Coast in New York and Pennsylvania. I get a lot of orders from Pennsylvania. I feel like they're all friends every time. I don't know if they are, but I just kind of feel like they're all like gathered around with my pins on. That's like just a dream I have. But that there are people around the country. There's people in France. There's people in England that are wearing or have on their board a pin that started on my Procreate on my iPad. That is just wild to me.
That is I mean, that's so cool. I can relate.
Yeah.
I understand that. But the fact that maybe you've identified like a pretty queer part of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of them come from Scranton, so if I ever go to Scranton, I'm looking you all up.
Yeah, you need to bring some pins or something like that. Maybe there's like a comic book shop or something that they're all going to. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty funny. So I know it's still pretty early on in your pin journey, but I gotta ask: Have you had a worst selling pin yet?
Yeah, actually, the one that does not sell as much, so I give it, which is fine because I'll give it away for free, and people love it when it's free. They just don't want to buy it. Is the Princess Peach Ariana Grande, and I thought this was going. So, and it's weird because I thought like, oh, this is like kind of natural, you know. People love, you know. Gays love to play as Princess Peach on Mario Kart. And what else do we love? We love Ariana Grande. And this is a painting with a broad brush, of course. And I thought like, this one's going to sell. That one has sold, you know, just a few. The people that have wanted it were really happy about it. But yeah, I don't know why that one just hasn't sold, but I have just thrown it in with a lot of different orders, and then people are like, "Oh, look at this!" And I've seen it, let them put it on their backpack and stuff like that. But that's fine. I mean, I think everyone has to have a pin that they're okay with just like throwing into orders sometimes, and it's totally at random.
But a lot of the times that free pin is always like the worst selling pin. Like for me, I just like, here, just take it. It's free. This is cool, but I just want to get it out of my face. I'm tired of looking at it. I have pins from when I first started in like 2016 that I still have not like completely sold out of, and I'm just like, just take it. I've had this for forever. Like, but it's cool that you're still doing something with it. And I'm sure you've learned a thing or two from having, like, I think everyone's got to learn about how to deal with, you know, products not selling and stuff like that. So it's cool that you're what's the phrase, making lemonade out of lemons in this case?
Yeah, I will say, you know, there might be an upcoming market for it eventually, because one of the programs I run is for 9 to 12-year-olds who, most of whom are transgender. But they're all queer young people. They're like middle school age. And I brought them there, and we have about 20 kids there. And as soon as like I showed it to a lot of our kids, they're like, "Oh my God, I love Princess Peach. Oh my God, I love Ariana Grande." I did not know she was that popular amongst kids. But I get it. Her songs are catchy. And I gave them all a pin, and they were so excited about it.
And it's just such a heartwarming feeling. You're not doing it to like, I mean, you're doing it. It feels good, and to see the reaction and stuff like that. It's not like a selfish thing. Like, here, wear my pin, take pictures, and post it on social media. You're giving them something to like identify with and have some fun, and that's so cool.
Well, I'll even say it really started because, and I want to keep this brief. But one of our, and I don't want to give away too much, but we had one of the young people I've worked with understood that they had a gender identity that wasn't aligned with their sex assigned at birth, very young. And when they were little, they asked, and this is when they were in kindergarten. They went into kindergarten, and everyone knew them as a young boy. And Halloween came around, and they were just starting this gender journey, and they were saying, "I want to be Princess Peach for Halloween, and I want to let everyone know I'm a girl." And
wow, at that young.
Yeah, so between 3 and 5 years old is when gender identity is usually developed for young people. And for this young person, actually, and I'm going to back up. They didn't want to be Princess Peach. They wanted to be Daisy, in fact. But there was no Daisy costumes anywhere. And of course, the parents were really scared. Like, are we going to have our child transition like this? Is this the right way to do this? And what we found was that, we did find a Princess Peach dress, and she wanted to go through with it. And we just kind of took her lead. And, one of the things that really drew me to this Princess Peach is because when she put on that Princess Peach dress, it was like night and day. She felt affirmed. Some of the behavior issues that were going on when the family and everyone started to affirm her and trust her, that she knew herself better than we will ever know her, and that we are going to be on this journey with her. And she was able to go to school in a Princess Peach dress. That is really something that was inspiring for me to even use Princess Peach as I think actually, even though I love using Princess Peach in the game, the fact that I have this association with this young person who part of their journey was to put on a Princess Peach dress and find themselves, what was really special to me too. So that young person is still with our programs today, and they were actually the first person that I gave it to them before anyone else. And they were showing it off to all the other kids, saying like, look what I got. And then of course I was like, well, then now everyone can have one. But it was really cute that they have this really special memory of, this is how I came out to people. And we did everything we could to, protect her in those moments and things like that. But, I just wanted to share just a little reason why I actually made that, and why that is and she loves Ariana Grande too. So I think there is like a little bit of me that made that pin for her.
That is so cool. I love the stories behind like the pins, especially from the makers. So to have something like that, like that's such an inspiring story. Like just, for someone that young to like have these like firm beliefs. No, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. And to have people to support her,
Yeah.
And not a lot of people are fortunate enough to have that support system that early on. So for you to kind of encapsulate like just that whole story, all those feelings and everything like that into that one pin just makes it even cooler.
Yeah. That's why I didn't mind ever making that pin, even if it didn't sell. So yeah, I really love, I don't know what else to say about it, except for the fact that like, it's so important for us to let our kids, and I'm not saying don't have rules for your kids at all either, but to trust our kids when they are presenting something that is insistent, persistent, and consistent. When we deny that of them, you are actually increasing the odds that they will engage in risky behaviors. When we support them and work with them on this journey, it can be such a difference. It can make such a difference for everyone. And I'm going to get off my soapbox now. But absolutely, like if someone is listening to this and needing some resources around this at all, please DM me, even at my Miss Pinny Pins Instagram. I'm happy to give you resources. I can even give you national resources or whatnot.
God bless you, Joel. You're really making a difference. That's huge, and I think that's really important. I have certain people in my life. I'm gonna refrain from mentioning them, but who are going through like these difficult things. These just identity. I don't want to say identity crisis, but really trying to figure out like who they are and what they identify as. And it's been a struggle. Not everyone has like a great story like that, or have like supportive people and things like that. And I think it gets a little bit, like you said, a little bit tougher as you get older. So yeah, you're doing great work. It's very commendable, and
Thank you.
And I hope some of our listeners and viewers feel the same way. So much so that let's let's buy some of these pins. Let's help
Please,
Joel
yeah.
sell these out. Let's see. So I want to say that you've pretty much talked about or touched upon a lot of the questions that I wanted to ask. I mean, what are you most proud of with your pins? You've told me that already. I want to ask what sets you apart from all the other pin makers, but just hearing you talk, just hearing the passion behind your whys is the answer right there, and it's been evident with throughout this entire conversation. So I really don't know if I have any other questions. Do you have any questions?
No, but you know what? You haven't, I've noticed that you've never answered like who your favorite turtle is on your, because I think you've asked a lot of people, but I don't think you've ever answered the same question. So I guess that's my question. I mean, I'll tell you, I was very much a Michelangelo fan growing up. Just he was the party dude, you know. He was the kooky, whimsical one.
Yeah.
But I think I identify more with Raphael growing. Maybe I'm just become grumpier like Raphael.
Yeah, you know, if I had to give one answer, I would say it's Michelangelo, 100%. I love just having a good time and, you know, trying to bring joy, trying to make other people laugh and all that kind of stuff. But I think as I got older, I can see all four of them within like my personality. Like right now, I feel like I'm very much in a Donatello phase because I just picked up a 3D printer and I'm trying to figure out how the heck that works.
Yeah.
It's insane. But I'm also very much like Raph. I can have my days where I'm just moody. No one understands me. No one gets it. Like, you know, I'll figure it out. And then, you know, you got your Leo days, and then you have, you know, your Fridays, your Michelangelo days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's pretty funny. Okay, since we're on the topic, let's just get right into the this or that, the rapid fire portion of the podcast. Okay. And I'm just gonna say right off the bat, I think I know what the first answer is going to be just based on one of the first things that you said. Soft enamel or hard enamel pins?
Soft. Although, disclaimer, I think getting more hard enamel pins has made me really want to try the hard enamel pins. So I think that might be coming soon.
Ooh, yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Soft enamel, just that's really cool. I love the texture of them and the depth that they can create.
Yeah.
Just, dyed enamel pins or glow in the dark enamel pins?
I like glow in the dark.
Okay. Do you have you made any glow in the dark pins?
No, but I have several.
Are they all? I don't know if this is like super important or pressing. I'm just curious. Like, do you have? Is there a way to do like the rainbow flag glow in the dark?
Oh, all the glow in the dark I have is glows green.
Yeah, I've seen the green. I mean, that's probably like the most common thing, but I think I've seen other colors glow in the dark in the past. But I think it's just like a powder. I don't know if it's necessarily like enamel paint or something like that. So I'm wondering if there's a way to like combine different colors with the glow in the dark. Message for my manufacturer.
I don't know. Please let me know.
Rubber backings or butterfly metal backings?
Rubber. I hate the metal ones.
Yeah, there's a lot of fault. I get a lot of faulty ones, and sometimes they're just hard to like pull off the pins.
Or they'll pinch you. Yeah.
Are you hashtag pin game strong or pin game proper?
I've never used proper. I've only used strong. But I think either one of those I only use because of listening to your podcast. But I always put pin game strong in my post. Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite pin related hashtag to use?
Muppet pins or queer pins.
Okay. Are you a pin addict or a pin collector? I can't tell by the pins you have in the background. You're borderline.
I am borderline. I have probably like the idea of justifying it because I'm supporting small business. I think I've supported enough. I need to stop. I do like them, and especially I think I get on little tangents when I'm like, oh, I want a little group of like Peanuts pins. So I'm going to I'm really into the Pin Trill pins right now. They have like officially licensed peanut ones that I'm slowly but surely collecting. So maybe addict, but I like to say collector because there's a method to how I collect.
I like that. Okay, well, so then, real quick, just tell me how you have your like pin board set up, or just like kind of point out a
Yeah.
couple like groups.
This is my favorite thing to do, actually. I love doing these pin boards because they are, I'll even show you this, because it kind of makes, at the end, like a fun mosaic of things I like, right? I like to be able to even like find different edges that kind of go together that make it look kind of like a puzzle piece together. But right now, I'm working on a new pin board, and I just started with things that are like California. So I got my Little Boat Boutique California there. I got the Californians SNL from Patti LaBelle, which is like an SNL skit. There's a Long Beach pin, is where I work in Long Beach. And then I put by Cosmic Medium, they had this Barbie. And then they have some officially licensed Barbie stuff. I'm not even a Barbie fan. I just thought it was kind of cool. By Little Shop of Pins, who I think is a Filipino shop maker. And then I have this like Lil Kim one, and just things that I thought would go with like the ocean or something like that. That's what's fun to me when I get them in the mail. I'm like, oh, where am I going to put this in relation to other things? Even though you are the first person I've ever told about this. This is not something. This is really just like my hobby and sometimes I'll just sit here when I'm like doing work, and I'll just like look at my pins. So that's really nice to be around things that give me joy. Very, very. Who is the person that cleans up that says, "Does this give you joy?" Marie Kondo. Very, very Kondo of me. I also just like it because it doesn't take up a lot of space. I don't like things that take up a ton of space either. But I don't know. I've seen pin boards that can take up whole walls, so I don't want to get there. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think I made the mistake of buying like a giant cork board, but it was $3 at a garage sale. I was like, oh, this is perfect for pins. But now, like, it's just a chaos of mess. It's just pins here and there. You try and group them, and then you get so far, and you got to do something, and you come back and you have like another idea. So I might take a page out of Joel's book and just get like square corkboard. I think I've seen stuff like that at like Walmart or Michael's, and just kind of organize everything a little bit better. Because I am trying to do like a travel banner of places that I've been to, and I'll stop at like a visitor center in like Big Sur or something like that, pick up a pin and things like that. I got a basketball one too, so it's just
nice.
I always just geek out over that kind of stuff. It's just
I love when I can find them in the shop. It's even more special. Like Etsy is very special, but if I find them on the road somewhere and it's like super cool, or if I go into a small shop somewhere, definitely. Like in Long Beach, they have a little like or kitschy shops that have different pins in them too.
That's really cool, and I completely agree. Because like, you can go to Etsy and get almost anything. You can get yourself California themed pins and stuff like that. But it's another thing when there's like that story attached to it. It's like, oh yeah, I went on this like crazy hike, and then exactly. Okay, where were we? Where's your favorite place to rock a pin?
Probably on my collar. I'm not really a hat person, although I have worn hats just to show off my pins. But most of the time they just get here and then they stay here. But I will rock pins on my collar especially my own pins. I'll rock on my collar, and I have like when if someone compliments me on them, one of the things I like to do is, and this is a page out of your book, just like taking it off and saying like, here you go, and you should definitely follow you should definitely follow my pin page and buy some more, and then I've gotten sales off of that.
Yeah,
it's really nice just to when someone says like, oh, I love that movie, or I love Miss Piggy or whatever, to be able to hand them something saying like that, yeah, this is yours. There's like this camaraderie there.
It's just so cool. You form a new like friendship. You might get a follow out of it, and you might get like a cool picture. You're like, oh, hey, here's a pin. Oh, do you mind if I take a picture real quick?
Yeah.
Bam, content. What's your favorite pizza topping?
Pepperoni, classic.
Pepperoni. Okay, I got to add that to the list. I was talking to a previous guest, and I'm loving all the answers, but I'm curious if there's like a superior pizza within my guests. So I might do like a running tally, and maybe I'll order a pie that's got like, give me 3 slices pepperoni, little bit. But someone recently, someone mentioned banana peppers. They put banana peppers.
I could see it. Yeah.
Hey,
I'm not
one to judge.
I'm not one for. Yeah, I mean, I could see it, but I'm not. I probably wouldn't be down for. I'm not even down for like. I love pineapples, but I'm not a big pineapple person on pizza.
Yeah, I like my pineapples cool, not necessarily hot.
With cheese, I don't like pineapples with cheese. That's not a thing to me.
But we don't discriminate here on the Pin Pals podcast. If someone were to offer us that, happily down the hatchet it goes.
Yeah.
Joel, last question. What are the little things in life for you?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me this, and I was like, oh, I should probably prepare something, and I didn't. So little things, the ability for me, I guess over the pandemic, I have found a lot of value in just being able to like watch a movie or do something with friends or family. And nothing like that costs money, just something that, and in fact, a lot of the times when things cost money, you don't actually get a chance to bond with people. So I am trying to really evaluate like how my time is spent and what is of value to me. Like before engaging in something, I really ask myself, like, is this how I want the time on this earth that I have to be spent? And when I am able to ask myself that question and pause and, do some of those mindfulness practices, that becomes real, like even as little as it is, can I go and watch, Encanto with my family this month? That's the little things. That's something that's really important for me to do, because that is something that I can't ever buy again. That's not something that I can recreate. And I've learned a lot about, like right now, I can't even go over to my family's house. They all got COVID. They're fine. Everyone's vaccinated. And this is actually their second bout. I feel a little, I've not gotten it yet. So, it always makes me remember, like, I have to go visit them more because this could happen again or something like that. So I think that's the little things. And then even just like the idea of not just my family, but one of the not just my immediate family, but this idea of nurturing my chosen family as well. So even like which is a big theme in the queer community in general, but I have some really strong people in my life that are not necessarily blood related, but they are my family. And I have taken to really like meditation to really try to observe, like, how can I make sure to honor them as family as well, and make sure that they know that they are just as loved as the love that I feel from them. So I know that's a little cliche, a little corny, but that's really, you know, what it's about now. And I know it took me, you know, 39 years to get here, but here I am, and I'm sure I have a lot of work to do on that as well.
We're all constantly going through work. We're all evolving. We're all searching for true happiness and all those things. But to me, it sounds like you're a very intentful person. You're very cautious with your words and your actions and how they could help people, and it just seems like you have a very good heart.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's just a very wholesome. I'm doing a terrible job at communicating how I feel, but I resonate with that because I'm going through stuff like that myself. You know, as we get older, we're coming to the time in our lives where our parents are getting older, and it's becoming a little bit more difficult. And it's like you've known them as like superheroes, for lack of better words. You know, they've always been there for you. What you said before, broad stroke. You know, I know everyone's got like different stories and stuff like that, but to make those interactions more intentful, you know, it doesn't have to be, let's go to Disneyland, let's plan a family vacation. Like it can be something as simple as even a phone call, FaceTiming.
Yeah.
I love FaceTiming with my parents. It's just so funny because my mom wears glasses. So like when she FaceTimes me, she's got to look at me.
Yeah.
So it's like this.
Yeah.
But I cherish those moments because like you said, our time is limited. So for you to think that those are the little things in life for you is just very wholesome. And I'm gonna have to like make a montage of everyone's answers and release it as a video. It's just so powerful.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to say that it resonates with me, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
But that brings us to quite possibly one of the longest episodes of Pen Pals.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for taking so much time with me. I appreciate that.
It went by like this.
It
so
did go
fast.
by so really fast, right? Yeah. I tend to chat a lot. I tell a lot of people, cut me off when you need to. But yeah, I really appreciated this, Eric. And I'm so thankful that, you know, this is here. And, you know, I'm sure there are, I may be one story that came out from your pen pal, but there are other people out there. I am positive that you are making an impact that you just probably don't even know. So I want you to take that with you, is the fact that there are folks that are listening to your podcast that are getting help they need, that may never reach out to you. And so I'm sure, you know, if it helped me, I'm sure it's helping other people as well.
Well, that's awesome. If you're listening, speak up. Tell me. Write reviews, or at least give me a 5-star podcast or 5-star rating. No. Very appreciative of that, whether you contact me or not. The fact that, you know, like BB Create said, Michael and Miguel said, a lot of people tend to be gatekeepers. I just kind of want to open the door and because all this information is already out there, but why not just try and do it in like a conversational way and just be open and transparent. We all got stories, and some resonate more with others. So, you know, just like your sentiments, I hope that people resonate with a lot of the things that you said. I think I said that backwards. I hope a lot of things that you said resonated with some of the people that are listening. And you're inspiring like a whole generation of kids, and that's really cool. So hopefully we get some more unique, fun pin makers out there.
Yeah. Thank you. And can I just do one more shout out? I forgot to mention him, but Queer Lobster Shop is one of my friends.
Oh no, I didn't mean to like give you the
yeah.
finger. I was like, let me actually just give you the floor, and
Oh.
I'll give you say all the shout outs that you want. If you have a list,
Okay.
go for it. Let
No,
the
it's-
people know. Let the people know
I
where they
know-
can find you and what you have coming on.
Yeah. Find me on my Instagram. Find me on Etsy. I just want to shout out a few people. I think I've mentioned a lot of folks who I buy from a lot. I don't know a lot of folks personally, but just the people that have been really open with me, and just really communicative. Even when I say like I'm a new pin maker, everyone's so sweet. But one of my friends from college, Steven, runs Queer Lobster Shop, which has a couple pins out, which are really cute. And I think like a biblically accurate angel and a mop and a palmistry one, which is cool. Also, just some of the ones that I just want to shout out to that are just these people that hype up everything. I do, and both of them are Black-owned shops. The Nostalgic Place, amazing. Always hypes up my work, and it's just, and I never met this person, but is doing some really great 90s/early 2000s Black pop culture pins. Like there's Moesha ones and Girlfriends, and I think some Proud Family ones, and then who else always hypes up my stuff? Oh God, I'm forgetting them, but. I also just I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Eric, but there are pin collectors that are very famous on Instagram that always are following us too. And I just want to shout out them because they are the ones that make the content hit because they like our stuff and it goes into, Minimal Banana is the other one that is just like a professional hype person too. They make some Goofy pins and some Disney pins as well. So they've just been so nice in my journey, and I wanted to shout them out. Plus everyone else I mentioned.
Shout out to the queer pin community.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. I forget. Did you say where can people find you on Instagram? What's your handle?
Oh, at Miss Pinny Pins. So that's I consider that to be my pin drag name, Miss Pinny. If I ever do drag, that will be her name, Miss Pinny. And I'll
Make
be
it rain
festooned
pins.
Yep, yes, I'll be festooned in everyone's pin. But I try to with my Instagram make it from Miss Pinny's perspective and not Joel's. So, but we are one and the same.
I love that.
Miss Pinny Pins, yeah.
And they can find your pins on Etsy if they just search for.
Yep, the same. Miss Pinny Pins, yeah.
Perfect. Joel,
Cool.
What an absolute pleasure this was.
Yes.
Great start to the week. I feel energized. I feel excited. Just thank you so much for being open, transparent, giving me some of your time, giving the listeners your time, and just kind of opening up about a lot of these things. Because I know it can be very difficult. I know it can be very sensitive. So for you to just kind of put yourself out there is what's the word? Commendable, admirable.
Oh, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this, and I can't wait to listen to this whole season.
It's gonna be a good one. Hold on to your pins. I don't know.
Hold on to your lapels.
Hold on to your lapels. Oh, I like that. Okay, we're gonna have to coin that some way or another.
For sure.
But Joel, we will talk very soon. We got some pins to collab on and some organizations to figure out how to donate, or we'll figure it out. But
for sure.
Until then, I hope you have a great night. Take it easy.
You too. Have a good one. Bye.